For today's Photoshop tutorial, we're going to be taking an image that's been AI generated using Midjourney, which is built into Discord. And that's just the AI tool that I use. There are loads available now. It's become mainstream to be able to use AI photo or image generators. And one of the challenges we find with these AI image generators is, apart from maybe a hand having an extra finger or two, we find that they all start to look very much the same. If it's a full high-res photo, they can look a little bit too polished, too much sheen on the photos and not enough reality. And today we're going to be looking at a retrofuturism style image that I'm going to be using as part of one of our products, which is our Pixel Haze Power Pack. And that tool, if I can get the words out, combines all of our plugins, templates, other tools that we use for Squarespace, specifically for designers. And I'm not going to delay on that too much. So let's have a look at this image in Photoshop. And I'm going to show you what I have done previously, because I've cheated and I went through this process before, and what we're going to be doing as part of this tutorial. So now I've switched over to the full screen mode. We can see our photo in place here. In fact, if I just zoom in a little bit with Command Plus, this is the original photo we've got to work with. I've already created one, as I mentioned, which adds things like the space in the background. We've got the flames coming out of the jetpack, which is the power pack equivalent. I've added a little bit of blue on the horizon. In fact, I could certainly add a bit more color to this as well. And there's a noise effect that I've added to it, which gives it that grainy, kind of early days of color television vibe to it. So this is a retrofuturism style, which fits in nicely with our Moonshot program, which is our intensive training program specifically for Squarespace designers. So we can, when we look at this one in comparison, we can see it's all a little bit blurred out and there's just a lack of sharpness and clarity to it. So let's start working with this. Before doing anything else, I think what I'm going to do is just take this detail out here and I'm going to extend the canvas so we've got a little bit more breathing space for our astronaut. So let's go to the crop tool and I'm just going to drag that up to around there. And now we're going to use a generative expand and I'm just going to press done. In fact, I'm not sure what's happened there. Let's try that again. I think because this is actually the original file I was working on before. So generative expand and now generate. Okay, so I don't think I pressed on the generative expand button, hence why it wasn't showing. So this approach, if you watch any of my other tutorials, you'll know that it'll take a minute or two to find these variations and to create them. But we're after something pretty simple here. We can see this is added new stuff that I don't really want added to it. That's playing around with the sky, and that's even messier again. So the one easy option here potentially could be to use the heal tool. So I'm going to flatten the image. And now I'm going to just use the spot heal tool. And I'm hoping that heal tool will just get rid of all of the extra details that I don't want. Okay. It doesn't have to be exactly right, simply because we're going to be working on this afterwards as well. So we're going to look at, see if we can select our subject, at least roughly. And now we're going to go to select and inverse, this option here. And now that will select the background, excluding the object, or as much of the object as we can. Now, if I go to the Magic Wand tool, I can press Shift to add sections. So we're going to get rid of this pipe here. They're not really needed. I'm not sure what that is for there, but we've got relatively good selection there. So what I'm going to do now is probably select the square marquee tool here, and I'm going to press Option or Alt, and then we can see the minus next to the cursor, hopefully. So that's going to deselect this top section. Because what I'm hoping to do is now go to the generative fill option and put planet from space. So whilst it's generating that, there's one thing. It's almost impossible to get two images to look the same using the AI image generator because there's a random element to it. So it comes up with new options each time, and some of them are weird and wacky. So this option here is completely different to what we wanted. So let's not worry too much about that. Maybe what we could do is go to inverse. Or even just select this area at the top and then put space. And see if it will ignore our astronaut, because we want to keep him in place if we can. We get all sorts of weird and wacky results. Okay, he's completely changed this, our astronaut now. Okay, so we need to select subject. We need to inverse our selection. And this time we're going to extract the bottom half of the photo. So we're using Option again and dragging the square marquee over it. And then I'm going to use Shift to add some sections back in. And now we're going to search for space again for our generative fill. This could be causing a problem. There's maybe not enough of a separation between the two. We can see here. So maybe instead of space, we go for stars. Stars in space. Let's try that. Okay. So we'll just re-roll a few times with just space. So it's wanting to put too much detail in at the moment. We're just going to have to go back to the original and let's try something different. So in this case, we've got an image here with the stars in place. And maybe we can add this in place. Okay, and now let's select our subject again. Make sure we got the right layer selected. So last time out, it was much easier to do this. I'm just wondering if it will help maybe just to focus on some of the smaller things first. So I'm going to use the clone stamp tool. I'm going to select this section here and just get rid of these extra details that we don't really want. Don't worry too much about whether it blends, because we're going to be changing all of this at some point anyway. We don't need this either. One thing we could do actually is just maybe select this here, and we'll try the generative fill tool to see if we can remove pipes. I did this last time and it worked. So I'm interested to see if it will work a second time. Don't really want them to be, our spaceman to be wearing combat, so I think we'll go with that one. Let's flatten our image. No, we don't want to do that just yet. We're going to go to layers here and we're going to merge these two together. So we're going to select both layers and then merge them together. So we keep our stars on a separate layer. And then maybe we'll just try the heal tool now on, see if we can heal this out. Just get rid of some of that detail there. Not perfect, but we'll try that as a starting point. Okay. Now let's have a look at some of the colors on this. So if I go to Command and L for layers, we're going to make our darker tones darker and a bit more punch to our lighter tones as well to give it a bit more impact. And we're going to go to Image Adjustments, Replace Color. And we're going to take the saturation down for our stars. And I'll lighten this down as well. Maybe just drop the hue over to be closer to that space color there as well. Okay, so that's starting to look better. Let's just simplify this section now. And we could even just use the clone tools, because what I want to do is maybe shape it. Maybe in the brush tool we'll do this. So we're going to take the flow right up the way up to 100. And we're not going to be worried about doing it too fussy. Make sure I've got the right brush on this, so I want that as normal, not overlay. So I'm creating the contour. I didn't have to do this last time, but it doesn't seem to be playing nicely with the whole planet from space concept. So I'm going to have to do this and see if this works instead. What I'm going to do now is flatten it. Select subject, and again, we're going to use the magic wand tool. We'll deselect some areas, just so we don't get any sections that we don't want in that photo. Right. Now we're going to go to the generative fill option. Oh, we need to inverse that selection first, sorry. So we've got the background selected. And now we'll try it again. So what we've done is simplified the image to give it a better brief. This doesn't promise that it's going to work either. Much better though. We could definitely do something with that, but I think we'll give it a couple more rolls and see what it comes up with. One thing we could potentially look at is a planet like Mars and see if that goes for more of that reddy planet, colored planet in the background. Might even put like red planet from space, because we can add more colors in should we want to. Okay, I think we can go with something like this, which isn't the same as the example that we've got with here, but it's getting closer to it. We'll try one more. See, I think we'll go with that. And what we're going to do now is just get rid of these planets in the background. There's too many red planets. One option we could do is to select and change the tone of that one there, so we leave that in the background as a distant planet. Go to layers. Let's flatten that. Let's go to selective color. There we go. So we've got a different tone there on the reds, just so that doesn't become too much of the same. And let's get rid of some of these others now. So I'll just try the heal tool and see if that works. So I'm just painting over it. Not bad. I think we can fix that from there. Okay, we're getting there now. So next up, let's add some flames. So I'm going to go to a Google search. Search for jetpack flames. And let's go with these three vectors here. Just going to copy the image and see if we can paste them in, because we're not actually going to be using these. That's why I'm not so worried about the license for it. What we're going to do is use this as a starting point to train the Photoshop AI tools, hopefully. So I'm going to zoom right in. We're just going to use the eraser tool now to clean up the edge of this. We're going to keep the opacity at 100, but the flow right down. find the right balance, and then we're just going to come in on the edge of it. Needs to be close enough so the Photoshop AI tools knows what to do with it. Okay. Right. Zoom out. Let's resize it. Make those flames a bit stronger. The reason I've gone with blue flames on this one is because this one's more orange and red than the other image I did before. And let's shape that flame a little bit. So we're going to merge those layers together. Then we're going to just tweak the angle to get it to match the jetpack itself. We're going to flatten that down. And now what we're going to do is select this area here. And this time we're going to try the generative fill without putting any text in. See if it recognizes it enough for us to work with. Okay, we got a tiny little flame there. Lovely. Okay, that didn't work. It thinks we want to get rid of it, so we could do the old-fashioned way of just grabbing those flames, license them from a stock library, and then using them. Okay, not quite there yet. But you can see with a few rerolls, we should be able to get something that works. And if it's not allowing me to leave the screen, the tab, but we'll have a look at the other example. Quite like that one. Sure, I could maybe tidy that up so it goes into a nozzle. But I think we'll go with that option there. And let's flatten it down once more. I'm going to sharpen it and just sharpen the edges, try and get it a little bit crisper. Now I'm going to go to the hue and saturation, Command U, and just bump up the saturation by, say, 10%, see how that's looking there. Then Command L for levels. We're going to bring in some of those darker tones again, make the sky and everything a little bit darker, but make the whole thing lighter. So it gives it a bit more contrast to work with. So if we look at the other example, we've got a bit more going on here. We've got the hue of the planet. So we could look at putting a lake in here. But I think what we'll do is put that in afterwards. So what we're going to do first, though, is add noise. I usually put this at the end, but we'll try it and see how it works. Also, maybe we could use the brush effect here to add a little bit of blue, a blue halo. So I'm just going to pick a color. for the edge of the planet. Now, strictly speaking, I'm wondering how much of that comes off because of oceans, but we're not going to get too heavy in the sci-fi here. What we are going to do is go to overlay with our brush option. And so that will just overlay the light effects. Okay, that's a bit too strong, but we can see the effect that that brings. It gives it more punch. And let's go to a low flow on it. It allows us just to add it a little bit at a time, reduce the brush size. And I think that just that halo that we can add just gives it more, a nicer feel to it, I think. Definitely more sci-fi, more variations. We can have a bit more of it in the flame. Okay. What we can also do is go to the hues, and we can, if we go for reds, we can drag this selection area, bump up the saturation just of that section. So we're looking for this tone here. So I'm going to take it to an extreme. For some reason, we're not grabbing that suit. So I'm going to have to try it a different way. Image, adjustments, replace color. Get the fuzziness down a little bit. And bump up the saturation of the suit. Put it down to about -4. Make that pop a little bit more with the saturation. So we've got a bit more halo on our planet now. We've got a bit more going on in the background. If we look at this option here, it's quite different, but getting roughly the same effect. Again, I'm going to go back and tweak the levels. Now we've worked on it a bit. I'm quite happy for it to look quite dark and moody. We are looking in space here as well. There's a lot going on with the lighting. I'm not sure if the lighting's quite right. We've got the light bouncing off the front of the helmet here, and yet the planet in the background, the light's going another way. There could be multiple suns, and maybe that's our excuse to get around that. This has also lost a little bit of its detail. So if we look at this option here with this jetpack, I think that one looks much better. So I've got the option there, and I can kind of tweak with that if I want to, or I can just be quite happy with the outcome there. It's good enough. So what we can do now is go to filter, noise, add noise, and then we just tweak the settings to the level that we want. So maybe we can go to 2.5, maybe 4, and we'll just add that noise to the image. What we can also do is just darken and add a vignette on the image as well. So I can go to the burn tool here, and I'm going to tack the shadows at just 5%. Really subtle effect, but we're just darkening those shadows on the outside there. And we're going to do the same with some of our planets as well. Same with some of our astronaut. Okay, that's given it a bit more impact there. Let's go to midtones. Just do a tiny bit on our midtones. We're adding that vignette around it. And I think we're there or thereabouts. One thing I would like to do before we wrap up is maybe add a bit of water to our planet. So what I could do is copy this and paste it in. I'm going to make it bigger. You can see all the noise in there. It's too much, but we're going to use the eraser tool now. We're going to flatten it down. Now select this area. And we'll try lake. If this doesn't work, we can just undo and go back to the previous one. I don't really want to be spending another 15-20 minutes just to work on this effect. But you can really get lost in it when you're using Photoshop for this type of effect. This is still far quicker than having to stage this whole photo, so we can use... I have no idea why it came with that option. Cancel that because there's a typo. Let's try it one more time. I bet it puts a bottle of water or something in there, but I think that's the most ridiculous example I've ever seen from Photoshop. But you get them. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll call it a day there. I could work on that and adjust it. I did quite like our lake on this example here, and I liked the way that the planet went back. I think there's too much grain on that image now looking at it, and I think this one's got a better example for that. But two different desired outcomes, two different or similar approaches to it, but two very different outcomes in the end. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this journey into using AI tools with Photoshop. I thoroughly enjoy playing around with it, and we'll probably use this image at some point along the way. So it'd be great to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment. Is there any type of image that you want me to work with that you're struggling with at the moment? In fact, at Pixel Haze Academy, head over and we are offering a small number of one-to-one tutorials to help promote our online community, where we jump into challenges like this: web design, branding, graphic design, and basically everything within the creative industries, including the use of AI, not just image generation tools, but to help people along and to build up our case studies with coaching people in this aspect. We are offering a small number of free one-to-one sessions with myself and my team. If you're interested in getting involved, head over to pixelhaze.academy and there'll be an option for you to find out more there. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Cheers.